What is going on, YouTube? So coming back today with my next set of NFL rankings. So yesterday did my wide receiver, and today we'll be doing my tight end rankings. So obviously one of the thinnest positions on offense in the NFL, and there's not a whole lot of detail to talk about here. It's a very top-heavy position. A little bit of disappointment in some players last year, specifically Jimmy Graham. But anyway, start with my three outside. I'll be doing my three outside and then my top 10. And to start, I've got the Chicago Bears tight end, Zach Miller. So Zach Miller's kind of turned into somewhat of a journeyman in the NFL. He had a decent season last year. Was a reliable target for sure. Caught 34 passes, 439, and 5 touchdowns. I could see an upgraded role for him in 2016. It really depends on how the Bears offense progresses with Matt Forte gone. Matt Forte leaving might actually open up in a weird way a chance for progression for Zach Miller, just because he might be getting more of those short looks, some of those routes across the middle that he's been getting for a lot of his career, since Matt Forte will be gone, and Matt Forte was one of the biggest parts of that offense. I mean, honestly, he is one of the best receiving running backs in the NFL, and Jay Cutler looked his way quite a bit. But like I said, I think it's a chance for him to, I wouldn't say break out, but have a upgraded season statistically in 2016, 2017. So my next tight end, I've got the Philadelphia Eagles, Zach Ertz. So Zach Ertz was actually targeted quite a bit in Eagles offense. I think that his progression in the NFL, he is, I believe, a 4-year pro now, came into the league in 2012. And I think his progression in the league is really going to come down to how Sam Bradford progressed in the Eagles offense in 2016. I'm not much of a believer in Sam Bradford, just because I don't think he's ever going to be able to stay healthy. It's just the simple fact of the matter, and I think a lot of people realize that. But if by some miracle he's able to stay healthy, then I think Zach Ertz could definitely find an upgrade in the touchdown category. He was one of the yardage leaders last year, had 75 catches for 853 and 2 touchdowns, was also one of the receptions leaders, targeted quite a bit. So the targets are there, the looks are there. I think he's just got to have a little bit better quarterback and a little bit better situation to be looking at in Philadelphia. So at number 1, on my 3 outside, I've got the Dallas Cowboys, Jason Witten. So Witten obviously has seen a little bit of a decline in his stats just because he's getting older. Obviously missed Tony Romo for quite a bit last year. I think with having Tony Romo back, he might see a little bit of a recovery for his stats for a season or two. And 77 catches, 713, and 3 touchdowns last year. Like I said, I think that number will be boosted up a little bit with Tony Romo back this year. So at number 10, move into my top 10, I've got the Jacksonville Jaguars tight end, Julius Thomas. So Thomas had a big year in 2014 with the Denver Broncos, but that was largely thanks to Peyton Manning. I do think he's a talented tight end. I don't think he's going to put up those same type of stats he did in Denver for really the rest of his career in Jacksonville. There's just too many weapons on that Jaguars offense at this point. It seems a little bit weird to be saying that, but it is true. They got Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns. I mentioned those guys in my video yesterday. They were huge last year. Honestly, Julius Thomas is probably the 3rd or 4th look on that offense on most plays. He's really not the primary receiver most plays, just because, like I said, you've got those 2 options of wide receiver, and then you've also got Chris Ivory and TJ Yeldon coming back next year. So you got a lot of weapons to look for on that offense. He's definitely got a decent quarterback throwing to him. If Blake Bortles can progress, then you might be looking at a little bit more touchdowns in the way of Julius Thomas. But I think he's right where he is, right where he's supposed to be statistically. So at number 9, I've got the aging San Diego Chargers tight end, and that's Antonio Gates. So Gates missed a little bit of time last year, but honestly, for his age, he's still doing quite well. Missed, I believe, the first 4 games and a few games here and there last year. I believe he missed about 6 games total. But for only playing, 10 games last year, he had 56 catches, 630 yards, 5 touchdowns, benefited for some looks in Keenan Allen's absence last year. But he's still putting up, decent numbers. This is one of the best tight ends of my generation. For, I'd say, a span of about 8 years, he was one of the best tight ends in the NFL, and he's always been a reliable target for Phillip Rivers when it's been hard for the Chargers to find reliable wide receivers since Phillip Rivers has been in San Diego. So at number 8, I've got like I said, I mentioned in the beginning of the video, kind of a disappointment for Seattle, the Seahawks tight end Jimmy Graham. So Jimmy Graham last year was able to put up Like I said, disappointing numbers on his part. 605 and 2 touchdowns compared to being one of the best tight ends in the league. The last, I'd say, 3 years before that. He missed, I believe, the last 5 games due to injury. But even before that, he had spurts, but overall just wasn't extremely impressive. Like I said, I think that I think he can benefit from another year in the Seattle system. I think it was a big change for him last year. I think that you'll see a boost in the numbers next year. I could see maybe a few looks going away from Doug Baldwin, since he might have a little bit more of a target on his back now, and maybe a few more looks going back to Jimmy Graham. To be honest, the targets were there in the games he was playing in. I believe he had around 75 targets, so I think he'll get his looks next year. Just needs to convert on them. So at number 7, I've got the Cleveland Browns tight end, former Carolina Panther Gary Barnidge. So Barnidge really had a breakout season. I don't think anyone saw that coming. He had over 1,000 yards, 79 catches for 1,043 yards and 9 touchdowns. Huge year in Cleveland. Actually, I believe was their second leading receiver behind Travis Bench. Actually, might have been their leading receivers last year. But anyway, yeah, it was a great year for Gary Barnidge. I could see more of the same in 2016, depending on who they got at quarterback. To be honest, if he was able to do what he did with the combination of Johnny Manziel and God knows who else in Cleveland this past year, I think he'll be fine next year with most likely either like a Paxton Lynch, Jared Goff, or Carson Wentz throwing to him. So at number 6, I've got the Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce. So Travis Kelce, I think, had bigger expectations than what he actually came through with this year. Nonetheless, still a decent season. Over 100 targets, 72 catches, 875, and 5 touchdowns. I think a lot more looks went Jeremy Maclin's way than a lot of people expected. Jeremy Maclin had a big season, but Travis Kelce was nonetheless very serviceable for Kansas City. And like I said, he's become one of the mainstay tight ends, definitely the top 10 best tight ends in the league for the last 2 years. And no signs of slowing down, no reasons why he should regress in the Chiefs' offense next year. I think he's right about where he will be next year, though. I think just outside the top 5 is where he belongs in terms of best tight ends in the NFL. So at number 5, I've got the Cincinnati Bengals breakout tight end, and that is Tyler Eifert. So Eifert had a big season as well, a lot of touchdowns, caught 52 passes, 615 yards, and 13 touchdowns. So yardage was by no means up there with the league leaders, but I believe he did lead the league in touchdowns. And beginning of the year started off extremely hot. He was a good tight end in spurts this year, a little bit of an up and down season, but as a whole, a very good red zone target. And again, if Andy Dalton's healthy for the full year and the Bengals offense keeps going the way it was this past year and the way it's shown the last few years under Andy Dalton, AJ Green, and all them, then it should be another big year for Tyler Eifert, maybe even a progression in the amount of receiving yards he gets, with guys like Mohamed Sanu maybe gone and then Marvin Jones in Detroit. So at number 4, I've got the Tennessee Titans tight end Delanie Walker. So I think Delanie Walker could tremendously benefit this year from another year Marcus Mariota. He caught 94 passes. I believe he was the league leader in receptions. And yes, he was. 1,088 yards and 6 touchdowns. And he is one of the main weapons in the Tennessee Titans offense. This is a Titans offense that does severely lack weapons. This is an offense that revolves around Antonio Andrews, Marcus Mariota, Delanie Walker, and Dorial Green-Beckham. And Delanie Walker was the main look on a lot of the time, or on most occasions. Like I said, Mariota did struggle with injury a little bit this year, and I think a full year of healthy Mariota, maybe another year of progression, could definitely help out not just Delanie Walker, but the entire offense. So at number 3, I've got the Washington Redskins tight end who had a huge season last year, and that is Jordan Reed. So Jordan Reed did benefit hugely from big year with Kirk Cousins. Now, a lot of people would have Jordan Reed as their second best tight end in the NFL right now, especially from the numbers he put up this past year: 952, 11 touchdowns, and 87 receptions, good for second best in the league. But I don't know. I just don't see. I mean, I don't think a lot of people see this either. Another year like Kirk Cousins had this year. It was a contract year. It was a rough year in the or for the NFC East as a whole. And like I said, I think that Jordan Reed is right. I think he is a talented tight end, but I don't know if he's up there with the Gronks of the world. Definitely isn't. I don't know if he's going to get consistent quarterback play from Kirk Cousins for another year. Obviously, Washington's a team that has struggled with finding consistent quarterback play over the last, well, really since RG3 got in the league. And like I said, I think Jordan Reed will be a good tight end for a couple more years. I think he can put up this same type of, maybe a little bit of a regression, but maybe ballpark same stats as this past year. But to me, 3 is right where he will be heading into next year when you look at most overall rankings and then fantasy football rankings. So at number 2, I've got the Carolina Panthers tight end Greg Olsen. So Greg Olsen really became the favorite of Cam Newton this year in terms of throwing the ball. Carolina severely lacked wide receiver depth for most of the year. Ted Ginn was their primary receiver for most of the year, and Devin Funchess was probably the next look besides him. So Greg Olsen had 77 catches, 1104, and I believe 7 touchdowns. Yeah, so very good year from Greg Olsen. Was very good in the playoffs as well. As long as Cam Newton, I mean, I could see Cam Newton keeping the same form. Maybe not the exact same stats as last year, but I could see Cam Newton have another big year. I don't think he's going to show any signs of slowing down. Greg Olsen has definitely had years past that were maybe not the same statistically, but in the same ballpark. He's a very talented tight end. Has put up good stats multiple times in his career, and I think he definitely belongs in that number 2 position. So at number 1, I've got the obvious choice, the New England Patriots tight end Rob Gronkowski. So for the first time in about 2 years, Gronk was able to put in a full healthy year, and the stats definitely showed 72 receptions, a league-leading 1,176 yards, and 11 touchdowns. I did actually have him in fantasy football this year. Was a very good pickup. To me, clear-cut number 1 tight end in the league. Should see more of the same in 2016, and should be able to lead a spearheaded attack for the New England Patriots as they try to win another Super Bowl. In Tom Brady's, I believe it will be 17th year in the league. So, yeah, that pretty much concludes my video. Like I said, pretty short, quick to the point compared to the other ones. Tight end, not a extremely detailed position. And tomorrow I will be coming back with my either offensive tackle or offensive guard or just offensive line rankings. I'm probably just going to do offensive line rankings just because it's not a huge position it's not very detailed position to be able to talk out. Like I said, I'll probably just come back with my offensive line rankings, just do a short little video, try to put a good spin on it, and then after that, be coming back with my defensive end rankings, start getting back into the good stuff. So that's pretty much it. So yeah, couple weeks, days, months down the line, then the link to the entire playlist will be in the description below. So, like I said, today I will be doing running backs, and I'll be doing the top 10 for that again. I did top 10 quarterbacks yesterday. When I run into a little bit more of a depth position like wide receiver, I might extend it to like top 20 or something like that.